Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And today we're talking about my top 10 anticipated board games from Essen. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this list and talk about why I think they're interesting and if we're actually going to be getting them. I'm lucky enough to have a friend that is going to Essen this year, and he's going to be able to pick up some of these things for me for the SideGame library. So extremely grateful, super excited. And I think that this is going to be a lot of fun looking at all these new games. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the list. Now, the first game that I want to talk about is an expansion. There's going to be a lot of expansions on this list, and the first game is definitely an expansion, and this is going to be the expansion for Paleo. Now, Paleo is a board game that came out and actually won the Spiel des Jahres here, the Kenner Spiel des Jahres last year, or this year, I should say. And it has now received its first expansion. And this is, I'm not going to pronounce this name, but the whole idea is that this one here is set thousands of years after the first Paleo. And I think that's really neat. You're getting this new type of history that you get to explore, and you get to see new mechanics in a new light. Now, there's not a lot of images here, and that's okay because this game does have spoilers as you take these decks of cards and you explore them as a cooperative group. Now, I really like the system of Paleo. It's the whole premise of the game is you're going to be having these decks of cards in your hand. You'll look at the top three, and based on the backs of the cards, you'll make decisions, and you'll say, "Ooh, do I want to go down this route, or is this something that I think is a lot safer? So maybe I might want to help out the other person at the table." So I like this idea, and I think that Paleo's expansion is just going to offer new mechanics and new types of creatures, and I think that's really exciting. So excited for the stories that are going to come from Paleo. That's going to be my number 10. Now, my number 9 is going to be for the game Tabbanusi, the Builders of Ur. Now, this is in the Board and Dice T series of games. This is the next in that series, and it's a big focus on dice drafting. Now, dice drafting is a great mechanic, very fun, and Tabbanusi fits into the area very similar to games like Tekenyu and Coimbra, a bit of a mix of those two things. So the gameplay is very straightforward. On your turn, you're going to be taking dice, and these dice that you take will be the numbers determine the district that you take, that you'll be taking actions in the next turn. And the dice themselves are colored, and these colors represent a type of resource that the dice actually are. So it's kind of a mix between those two areas where the dice number is the district, very similar to Tekenyu, but each district has multiple actions, which is kind of cool. You're also going to be able to be putting different pieces into these districts and the different dice. I love how they are the resource. So I like how you can kind of collect them and use them for different things. So I really like that system here. And this one seems like it's just a great thinky game, but this one has a lot more strategy and long-term strategy and planning for future turns very long in advance, because you have to pick that color and that number of dice because that number is going to carry you from one turn to the other. And so it really, really matters what you take, not just for this turn, but for future turns. It's got this great looking board. I love these pieces here. This just looks like a lot of fun, and I'm excited to give it a try. Tawatinsuyu was not a big hit for me. I thought that the amount of choices were ridiculously large, and the payoff was not as large as those choices were regarded. So not one that I was very excited to pull out, but Tekenyu and Teotihuacan have been mainstays in my gaming lifestyle. So I think that this one is one that I'm looking forward to at least give it a try. So excited for this dice drafting system. I think it's a great action system. That is Tabbanusi, Builders of Ur. Now, the next game is a sequel to a game, and this is going to be based on a Kickstarter that was on. This was on Kickstarter a while ago, and this is going to be It's a Wonderful Kingdom. So, It's a Wonderful Kingdom is a sequel to It's a Wonderful World, and the whole premise here is you are these head-to-head builders of civilizations. So it takes the futuristic version of the old game and turns it into a head-to-head version. But it does this with an I cut you choose mechanic, and I think that is such a clever way to do things. So the I cut you choose is just a great game system. It reminds me of things like Hanami Koji, and I love that game, especially in that two-player setting. And I think that's where it's done best because both players are able to think, and this is the new form of drafting. This is also just a great addition because it does play two players, but it also plays solo. It's a great addition if you just want to explore mechanics, because this comes with lots of new tiny mechanics that are going to offer you new modules that you get to play either in that two-player mode or as a solo mode. It reminds me a lot of Glenmore Chronicles, where you're able to mix and match and choose what you want to play with, and you can just play with a lot of these different things over and over again. And I really like that system of being able to customize the gameplay, and It's a Wonderful Kingdom does that. Now, it's the same artist, same designer as the first one, and I love that they still have kept this easy to read system on the cards, but they also have kept lots of space for these large full art cards. And I love that. I think that this game is really solid. This is one that I'm excited to play, and I already know that the system works and it's good. So I feel like this is one that is a no-brainer to back here. I'm thrilled and ecstatic to give this one a try. I think this is going to become a great two-player option for this game, and will probably the preferred way to play this two-player style drafting game. So that is It's a Wonderful Kingdom. Super, super excited. Now, the next game we actually have coming, it's on its way to the house. So this is not one that we need to actually pick up while we're at Essen, but this is going to be Dune House Secrets. Now, this movie comes out in like 2 weeks, which is super exciting. But the Dune House Secrets board game here is the detective system, but with a Dune theme and setting. And that's so awesome. I love the detective system, one of my favorite ways of playing that detective style game. And this does it fantastically. I love that you're able to use these cards and make decisions based on these. And then based on these decisions, you have to go to different routes. And each of these routes allows you to go to different locations, but you're kind of really crunched on time. And I think that the Dune world and Dune universe, I think this makes a lot of sense, because if you take too long to do something, bad things can happen. Once again, no spoilers here for any of this information or, any story bits that may occur. But I think this is a really cool system. So first off, you've got your characters, and I think it's going to be more in tune with the story as opposed to kind of just the resources that they were in the original detectives. So I think that's kind of awesome right off the bat. You'll have access to different houses based on the characters you pick. And then you also have the entire map of Arrakis that you'll be moving around on, as opposed to just like a city. So I think it's really cool how it's a larger scope of a game, but using a similar system. The resources and the components look fantastic. But the big thing that I'm excited for is the integration of the app and how they're going to make it work. So I'm curious to see the story here. I'm curious to see what they do, if they kind of pull from that universe or if they tell their own story. I am just very excited to see what this is. They have the license, they have this great theming, they have the characters, and they have the arts. I'm pumped for this one. I can't wait to see how they develop this Dune universe further. So very excited for this one. And once again, it'll be here in a week or two. So very pumped to give this one a try. The next game on the list is one that also is on pre-order, and this is from Capstone Games. They are coming in with the new expansion for Maracaibo. So, oh, sorry, not Maracaibo. This is for Boonlake. My bad. So this is the same thing that's coming from Capstone Games, but it is for Boonlake. And Boonlake here is the next game after Maracaibo from, oh, sorry, not after Maracaibo, after Cloud Age from Alexander Pfister. And this takes the idea of Great Western Trail and zooms it in focus. Instead of going that huge route to Kansas City, you're instead taking care of your cows and all your families very close and personal. You're in this area where the entire area surrounds this lake, the Boone Lake, and it's your job to do your best to use its resources in order to refine your farming systems. Now, it has this storytelling system that appeared in the last couple of games from him. You have the cards that are going to evolve the board, which is super exciting because it basically comes with so much replayability. It has tableau building in the form of cards that you're going to be putting in front of you. You have multi-use sections all around. You've got your player boards that are similar to things like Gaia Project in Terra Mystica or Scythe, where you're taking things off, placing them on the board, and powering up. I love the feeling of that, and I'm excited to see it done here. Very similar to something in Maracaibo or in Great Western Trail, as you are powering up your player things, you're building up your tableau of cards. So I think it has kind of the best of both worlds and just the best of these designs, and I'm excited to give it a try. I'm always up for something like this. I love just the progression and the powering up in these games, and I'm super excited to do it here. And that being said, now we move on to Maracaibo, the Uprising. So same thing, it's with that same batch of pre-orders. We actually did it separately so that we get them at different times, but this is Maracaibo Uprising. Maracaibo is probably it is my favorite Euro game, I believe. And this is just a wonderful experience. In Maracaibo, you play as Caribbean mercenaries going around from island to island and doing your best to upgrade your ship, make connections, and then explore and fight for the people that are currently occupying the area. You will will recruit many different members to your crew, and this simply extends the story. So the story of Maracaibo has you following a plague and a doctor and trying to do your best to help and heal the whole area. Things will occur, you'll meet different people, and that will cause the board to change as well as adding new cards to the deck. Now, in Uprising here, you are going to do something more along the lines of a revolution. You're going to be going against those people that are in charge, and that sounds so exciting. The biggest change here is in the base game, you had these boats, and these boats here we're going to, let's go ahead and just take some pictures from Maracaibo. But the big thing is every player at the base game had boats that were the same. They all had the same upgrade paths, but the variance came from the cards. And I thought that was really cool because you didn't have to memorize all these different abilities because you kind of just look at somebody's board and understand what they were doing. But the variance would come from the cards that you've drafted. And so the cards that you've drafted would actually interact with your ship differently. The new expansion, that is not the case. Your ship is actually going to have a set of upgrades that are different. And these upgrades are just going to further increase that variability and that decision on which cards to draft because maybe certain aspects will work better with certain ships. And I really like that. I think that's really cool. It just offers more options. This reminds me of just the corporation styles and something like Terraforming Mars or other engine building games. But I think that this one is like one step further because as you can see here, there are just so many options here. And each time you play, you're going to have a different ship now that's going to give you even different options. That seems a little overwhelming, but I think if you've played Maracaibo a lot, this is going to be a welcome addition because it's going to change up the game drastically. And I'm super excited for that. I'm excited to see what new project cards they add because I thought that they already were very, very creative in the things that they've done. There's just lots of cool ways to add and to make interesting things in this game. My favorite thing that they can do with the actual cards is they can change the costs of cards. And I think that's one of my favorite things. I love the cards that cost combat power, or I love the cards that cost goods. They're just a blast as opposed to kind of just the basic money here. So I'm curious to see what creativity and what things change here. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for this. This is one that I can't wait for. That is going to be Maracaibo, the Uprising. This is one that I just can't wait for it to. It's going to be great. Now, this next game is super small, probably the smallest game on this list, and it is a mini expansion that looks so cool, so fun, a great idea. I hope they release these forever. This is the Thrice is Clever challenge block. Now, Thrice is Clever challenge block, my number 4, all it is a little piece of paper. And this piece of paper comes in a pad, and so obviously you cut a couple of those out, you laminate those, stick them in your Thrice is Clever game, because what they do is they offer new ways to play the entire game. Now, I don't know why they haven't been doing this before, but it makes perfect sense. All of a sudden, you no longer have to buy a whole new game. You just buy these upgrade packs, and they're going to give you entire new scoring methods for actually playing Thrice is Clever. And I think that is so awesome. Now, if you'll notice here, it is not changed drastically. There's just a couple of things. If you've played Thrice is Clever, you'll notice that a lot of these scorings look the same. They may be a little similar, but they are drastically different. And the way that they are different is based on the different symbols, the different scoring. So it's a very minor change, but it's going to keep that flavor and change it up. So I really like this idea of giving slight tweaks, slight difficulty changes to the roll and write style games here, but keeping kind of that premise. And I do wish that they would maybe go one further, but at that point, if you're changing the entire game here, then you might as well just release the 4th one, right? But I like this idea. I like the idea of taking the pre-existing dice that you have, and that way you can simply add to a box as opposed to buying a whole new set. I think that this is the route to go. But I also think that it might just be safer to just release a brand new, the 4th one, right? Because that way people can just pick it up and they don't have to buy anything associated with it. So I see the pros and cons for both, but this is one that I'm super excited. Super small package, one you could just grab. So hopefully this is one that we can get from Essen. So this is where it actually starts with the games that I'm asking my friend to grab me while he's at Essen. And hopefully this is one that we can pick up because I think that this is just fantastic. So that's the challenge block for Thrice is Clever. Now, the next one here is a game that's actually been out already. And this is a new edition of it. Oh, let me see if I can find it here. Aha. So this is a new edition of it, and this is going to be another Alexander Pfister design. So this is all this so far. This list has been dominated by him, but this one is for a game that I know is good, a game that I know is fun, and this is going to be Port Royale, the Big Box. Now, Port Royale is just a cute little press your luck game, and this whole thing has you playing with a system where you're going to be throwing stuff on the board, and you're going to be taking these ships turn after turn and using them in order to get the money, as well as buying upgrades and whatnot with them. So it's a great small little game, and I was introduced to it by my brother actually, and this is one that he really likes, but he's never been able to find the expansions and things that he's been able to try. And so when I said, I was like, okay, if we get this, we'll make sure that we get the expansions so we can give it a try. And I'm so thrilled because they're coming out with this big box. It's going to retain the artwork from I believe it's this is a new artist, which is super exciting. But it's going to take it and take all things and create it with this new art style. And I'm very excited for this. And the chat here, we have Mom Gamer. Thank you for joining us. It's great to see you again. So we're just going through our Essen picks here, and we're on number 3 right now with a Port Royale Big Box. So this one here looks super exciting. I'm thrilled. I'm jazzed. It's got this new art style. It's got this whole take, and everything is going to be uniform. Nothing is going to be clunky. It's all here. It's multilingual. I'm pumped to give this one a full shake. With the expansions, it has cooperative and solo play. It can play more players, and it also has that story deck system now that you see in all of these other designs. So I'm excited to see the new additions here, and I'm excited to get this one played even more. So it's a great filler game, great one. I really like to push your luck in it, and it's one that I'm excited to give more tries. So that being said, let's move on to number 2. And number 2, you're going to notice, is the same from my Gen Con list, because at Gen Con it was only available to demo, but here you can actually pick it up, and this is going to be the Lost Ruins of Arank Expedition Leaders. Now, very similarly to the Maracaibo expansion, it's going to offer you asymmetric abilities that you're going to be using, and these asymmetric powers will give you different startups, different cards actually go in your deck, which is fantastic. I love this idea. But the biggest change, and the thing that I think is probably the most exciting, is the addition of new temple tracks. So these temple tracks are going to replace the ones that are in the game board already, and these are going to offer new things. So this one offers artifact cards. This one requires lots of movement to move up on, and I think that is very welcome, because just flipping the board in the base game is going to give you a drastically different game. And I think that you really have to focus on this track to actually do well in the game, because there's so many bonuses and points that are offered here. And so I think that making a big change like this is essential. And I'm glad that it's here. I'm glad that it's offering new ways and new routes to play the game. You're also going to have obviously new guardians, new cards just in general, and then new artwork. I'm just so excited to see what this is all about. I like how they're adding cats, and I love these expedition leaders and their passive bonuses. And I love that they're just big art. This game is so pretty. I love the whole style and theme about this. I'm thrilled. I'm jazzed. I'm excited to give this one a try, and I hope this is one we're able to pick up and get into our library as soon as possible. So super excited for Expedition Leaders. The last game on here, the one that honestly I know the most little about, but the one that I'm most excited for, this is going to be Golem. So Golem is my number 1 for this list. It is the next in the design series by Flamini Brasini, Virginio Gil, and Simone Luciani. But Simone Luciani is really that name that is carrying me here. This is the next big design from Cradio Creations. So this design team is extremely solid. They are putting out this game that takes this really unique time in history, where you're going to be building these huge golems of Prague, and these characters are going to protect your area. And I love this whole idea, this whole style. Now, the game itself looks extremely crunchy, but I love this whole theme, actually summoning these golems and using them to do your bidding. Actually, when I was looking at this and looking at some other games, this whole idea of summoning these creatures actually brought me back to, I wouldn't say brought me back to, but it reminded me of the mechanics and the things that I had seen in the new Vital Lacerda game, Weather Machine, where you're summoning the automaton and having them do your actions. So I'm excited to see the variance and the difference between these two, but this game just looks like it's full of bonuses, full of customization, and then it has this satisfying looking board that's kind of in the form of tracks that you're going to be moving around to collect bonuses and fully develop your golems. I really like this style. I think the theme is very different and very, very exciting, very enticing, but it's one that I am excited to jump into. And that's the list. Those are the games that I am thrilled to give a try. I just can't wait. I think that these are fantastic choices just in general. I am thrilled. So Yep, I cannot wait. I think that it'll be a blast. And yeah, if you're in the comments here, I'd love to hear what games that you are excited to try. I'd love to hear which ones that you want us to pick up for the library, and anything that we should request for the library. So I have Mom Gamer here. She agrees with me. This is Golem looks great. I agree. I am so thrilled. I'm jazzed to give it a try. And while we're here, we have a little bit of time. We could definitely go and take a look at the list and see if anything comes up that we missed, from this list. And as Mom Gamer says here, got to rewatch and jot down a couple of names. Fantastic. And we'll make sure that we include those in the description, and that way you can find them yourself. So let me pull up the Spiel list here, and then let's go through a couple of games. And if you're here in the comments this morning, we'd love to hear what you have to add down in the comments below. So let's go ahead and pull up the list. Spiel Guide 2021. Boo. I don't know why I'm having trouble with this. I'm pretty sure I posted this on this video's description. Let's see if I can find it. It's in 2021. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, let's go through the list. See if there's anything that we missed or anything that comes up that people may be excited for. And let's go ahead and do some filtering here. That way we can hit some of the hotter titles, and let's sort by thumbs, and let's run through. Now, I do want to give a shout out to Jamie. Jamie messaged me earlier, and he let me know all about disabling the ads on Board Game Geek. And I had no idea you could do that, so I want to give him a shout out here because this is extremely helpful. So now we're not going to get these random ads popping up as we watch. So first one here is Bitoku. This is a Devere game. So coming off of the success of Red Cathedral, this one looks interesting. There's not really much information on it because of the embargo that's currently out. Oh, is this not showing? Oh, I think I'm on the wrong page. There we go. Sorry about that. So as I said, this is Bitoku. This is the Devere game coming off the back of Red Cathedral. So that's pretty much all anybody really knows about this game. It's got worker placement, it's got fantasy theme, as well as set collection. So it seems like it's just another solid title, and hopefully in another tiny little box. We've got new delicious games coming out. Messina 1347. I believe this is the new Vladimir Suhi game that is all about the plague. I'm super excited for this because it takes a very unique perspective of the plague and how people would kind of use it to elevate their own status and weaponize it to help their industry. And I think that it has a lot of parallels with, kind of the situation we find ourselves in today. And I think that is super cool. This is one that I do definitely want to check out. Super excited for. So, yep, and Mom Gamer agrees. Both of these are on the top of the list. Yes, you and it looks like at least 430 other people. This is on the top of their lists as well. So super excited for these. And Lost Ruins Varnak and Golem we already talked about. Luna Capital falls in that same line with Bitoku here. But this one looks like it also has more card drafting and tile placement. So think Carcassonne-esque as opposed to something that is more worker focused. Boonlake, exciting. Silver Coin. So this is another, I don't think that this is in that same series of Silver Bullet, Silver Amulet, but it does seem similar. And then It's a Wonderful Kingdom. Actually, that's not true. Let's take a look at this. I would not say that this looks similar at all. All right, the Age of Monster Hovers. So this is a cooperative solo or competitive game where you're slaying monsters that are troubling the kingdoms. So this one, it looks actually kind of cool. This looks actually similar to the Witcher board game that was out a little while ago, but it looks like you're going to have all sorts of different maps that you're going to be going on. You're going to have characters that you're moving about. Your player boards look pretty sweet. The board is huge, lots of cubes. So I'm not sure what copy these folks are playing, but this one looks pretty sweet actually. So nothing to do with those games, nothing to do with those at all. But I like this map, and as you're traveling and traversing, I'm curious to see how these different game modes translate. But cool, seems interesting. All right, let's jump on back. We'll probably spend about 5 more minutes going through the different lists. If you do have any comments you'd like to share, please let me know in the comments. But otherwise, we'll wrap this up sooner rather than later. All right, we'll keep on going down. So, bring this back down. Back to the preview. All right. It's a Wonderful Kingdom. This is one we talked about. Corduba, I have not heard anything about, or 1923 Cotton Club, but I'm excited that they're doing so well here. Cascadia is actually one that we have on its way to us. There were a couple of Kickstarter copies that came out for a bunch of local game stores, and we were able to grab a couple of those. So excited to give that one a try. Heard nothing but positive things about this. Lots of solid comparisons to Calico. So I'm excited to see where this one shows up in comparison to those. And the theme also looks wonderful, and the art is great. I love this one. Good question from Mom Gamer. Have you ever been to Essen, or would you like to do so one day? I think one day maybe. Conventions actually are not my favorite things in the world. Whenever I go to conventions, it becomes more of just a hey, let's buy all these games, and then while we're at the convention, let's open them up and try them. And that's actually one of my like least favorite things to do is to open up a game at that time and then try to learn it and then try to explain it. Usually it ends up being a little bit more miserable than it is fun. And it takes way more time than it should because no one actually knows the rules to the games yet. I really like to take games and really do my best to learn them before introducing them to other people. And this gives me a very big feeling of anxiety when it comes to that because I like curating a very solid and smooth gaming experience for others. And this really kind of goes against that, right? Because a lot of times when you go to these larger conventions, you are picking up games just because you have to. They're there. You buy them to get them early. And then that's really all it's about is getting the games early. Now, this may change in the future. The YouTube channel is doing really well. So if we do have access to things like the press badges or anything like that, where we're able to go in and do videos with publishers and recordings, I think this might change my ideas and ideals towards something like this, a larger convention. I've been to Gen Con before and I had that kind of experience that I didn't really enjoy that much. I still had fun with the people I was with, but overall, I think that I could have facilitated this and spent less money if I just went to, I went and hung back out in Hawaii or traveled somewhere else and just enjoyed and bought a bunch of new games and learned them before. So it's a kind of a double-edged sword here where yes, you get to buy the games newer, but that being said, no one has really had that much access to them. It's you're first to the bullet, right? And so you have to really be able to make good predictions and good guesses based on designers pedigrees. And I think that this is something that I am excited to do. I do it all the time with games here, but I'm not sure if learning them at the time and at the place with the markups is something that I'm generally super excited for. Um, but I would like to go to Essen one day, but I think in the form of something like the press style, where you get to go in and get to see all of the different information beforehand. I think that would be cool to be able to cover it from that side. So I hope that answers your question. I'm excited to check out things like this the more and more this channel grows. But for right now, I'm okay with just kind of enjoying here. We actually do our own Frank Con, which is where we bring our library of games and we run a smaller convention. And we had it in Florida this year. And so I like doing stuff like that because these are games that I know down pat. These are games that I could teach and enjoy. And it's all about exploring and the games that we already do know and making sure that we're getting really solid ones played. So it's more akin to like so a retreat more than it is like one of these traditional cons where it's less about the buying of new games and more about the playing of amazing games. So I like that kind of style a little bit more. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and continue here. We've got Paris. This is the new expansion to Paris. Very exciting. And then the new edition of Great Western Trail, Ark Nova. Talked about House Secrets already. I think that Voidfall is there for demo only, which I think is super exciting because this game looks extremely chunky. And I think that getting to actually play it and see how simple the system looks will be very helpful for people that are kind of on the fence for backing it. We actually did a crowdfunding on this, and this one is really cool. I love how simple the action system is, but there's so many chaining actions. It really reminds me of Anachrony's simplicity, but with lots of things that can happen and lots of things to be mindful of with the gameplay as a whole. So I like this one a lot. This is one I'm quite excited for. And then we have Welcome to the Moon, which I had no idea that it was coming out. This is so interesting. It is a new kind of standalone legacy expansion for Welcome to and the roll and write game, right? Where you're going to be doing stuff, but you're building on the moon. And I think that's so interesting. So you have 8 different sheets, and each of these sheets are going to have their own story that they tell, and you'll be progressing from sheet to sheet. That's so fascinating. I think that's a great idea, great expansion. And I believe this one is going to be available for purchase in English, which is super, super exciting. So hilarious, hilariously cool. And those are all the games that I really want to cover here and the games that I'm excited for. Honestly, probably the biggest oversight for this list is actually Messina 1347. I really think that actually should be on this list. And I might I might give my friend Michael a call and say, hey, kick out that one game and make sure you pick this one up instead. I think I can probably wait on, because right now the four games that I'm hopefully able to get is Golem, Lost Ruins Erotic Expansion, Port Royale Big Box, and Thrice's Clever Challenge, because everything else is already on its way pre-order wise. But I might give him a call and see if he can grab Messina 1347 for me. So we'll see how lucky we are with this. But maybe this is one I wait for, because when the production comes to the United States, they usually change or add things. When it came to Praga, they added these nice wooden eggs as opposed to just the cardboard ones. When it came to Underwater Cities, the second edition had the nicer player boards. So I don't know. Do I jump on it now for that gameplay, or do I wait for it? I guess we'll see. If you have any more comments or anything that you'd like to hear from me, please put them down in the comments below. I'll make sure they get answered in any future date. So as soon as possible, I really do make sure that I try to answer the comments here. But that is the list as a whole. That's everything here that we're talking about for the Essen Spiel, the things I'm excited for, quick overviews, and just in general games that I'm pumped to give a try to. What things are you excited for? If you are here just kind of watching for the first time, I'd love to hear your lists. I'd love to hear everything about this. Please let me know down in the comments below. Do you agree with my picks? Do you have anything that you contest or you argue with? I'd love to hear. But thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Mom Gamer, for joining us today. It was great to have you live again. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Side Game Strong.